Welcome back to the Proximity is Power podcast. We got Tom Wilkinson in the house today.
What's up?
Tom, thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, good to be here.
Dude, thanks again. Little bio on Tom. He's a stud. We actually met way back 8 years ago at Casey Baugh's house. But here's a little bio about Tom. He's from Austin, Texas. He's a former gymnastics star, turned door-to-door salesman, turned door-to-door sales leader, turned venture capitalist.
Crazy story.
Yeah, he led teams at Vivint for 8 years, and then he started a venture capital firm last year called All In Ventures, and just in the last year, they're up 38.9%. So great start to that fund, and stoked to dive in, bro.
Let's do it.
Dude, so from Austin, Texas, how was growing up in Texas?
Dude, Texas is amazing. What is it like? Different than Utah for sure. I remember getting a wakeboard for Christmas and literally going out on the lake and wakeboarding on Christmas one year.
Wow. You can't do that here at all.
You can't. No, you can't do that here. The people are amazing. Football, of course, is gospel, and that was cool to be a part of. And it's just a good spot.
Heck yeah, dude. We were in Austin this summer, and the gas stations are bigger, the football stadiums are bigger, the barbecue is really good. Like it's a fun vibe down there. Growing up, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do when you were older?
I knew I didn't want to be poor, because I was super poor growing up, and that was painful, and that was hard to, I don't know. I just always remember feeling the weight, because I was a gymnast. It was really expensive, and I knew it was expensive for my mom. My dad left when I was young, and I knew I wanted to be able to provide. That was important to me. Wasn't really sure how to do it. I also kind of just knew I never wanted to work for somebody. You know, if I was going to do something, it was going to be up to me to go make it happen. Because my dad would just, constantly just get fired or like get let go and just could never keep a job. And so, having that, the ability to create my own destiny was important to me.
Dude, that's really interesting, because so many people don't want to do door-to-door sales or don't want to venture out and start a business because of all the uncertainty.
Yeah.
And the lack of stability. But it's like, if you work for somebody else, you could get fired today.
Yeah.
Talk about unstable uncertainty. Yeah. So that's interesting.
Sure. So yeah, that was my plan. And, I still, thought getting an education was important, but, I don't know. I just anything I tried, I felt like I wanted to be the very best at it. And so I was kind of a wild kid growing up. Like, when I was 4, I just bounced around off the walls and everything. So that's how I got into gymnastics. My mom dropped me off at this gym, and, I got to play around for a few hours, and then I came home and I was like a normal person. And she's like, okay, we're doing that. And I just never wanted to leave. And then, I've always been a dreamer. So I just like, okay, well, how far can I take this? What's the kind of the pinnacle of gymnastics? And that was, going to the Olympics and getting a gold medal and all that stuff. And, I thought I could do it. Eventually, I went to trials and didn't quite make it, but my friends went to Beijing in 2008 and did awesome. And, I went to the Air Force Academy my freshman year and did gymnastics with them. And then, that was kind of my gymnastics career.
Dude, what did gymnastics teach you about life, or just in general?
Just falling down and getting back up. Like, there's just so much failure, it's part of it. And, it's different than football or basketball, where if you miss a shot, you've got like a bunch more chances. Gymnastics, when you're performing, you salute the judge and you've got one shot. And if you screw up,
that's it.
That's it. Oh. Yeah, for sure. And so just being able to perform under pressure was a good thing I learned. it took time to get better at that, but yeah.
And a lot of time and work probably too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I used to, have 8-hour workout days in the summer times. Straight
Like
up.
actually.
Yeah, actually 8
Wow.
hours. Yeah, so we do 4 in the morning and then 4 in the afternoon, and all summer long. And then
Like 2 a days for gymnastics. Wow.
Yeah, and then during the year it was about 4 hours a day after school. So it kept me out of trouble. Looking back, I think, for my kids, I probably want them to like do some other sports so that they get some more variety. But it was a good thing for me, especially because at home, all kinds of great, it wasn't great to be at home anyway. So it was good for me to be out and focused on something.
Yeah. So then you graduated high school and then you said you went to the Air Force. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
So I went through basic training, which was a wild experience.
I bet.
Yeah, I remember that was the first time I'd ever felt like real anxiety, which is, something maybe we'll talk about a little bit later, but something I've, dealt with most of my life. But yeah, it was a wild experience. But, taught me to like push through pain and not quit. And, when you go through basic training, like most of the new cadets will quit like the first and second week. And I was like, I'm not going to be that guy. I'm going to push through. This is what I chose to do. Yeah, I met a lot of cool friends, but definitely like that cemented in me, like, okay, I don't want to be owned by somebody else. I don't want to be owned by the government. Like I'm going to be my own guy. And then I went and did a church mission in Brazil and came back and, knew I wanted to move on to something else. And,
how was the mission?
it was good. Like, I'm glad I did it. Really difficult for me, cause I dealt with anxiety and OCD and just never felt like I was good enough. Yeah, but there's glimpses of like really awesome things that happen from it. So
you want to go back tomorrow?
I don't, Gage, I don't think you could give me $1 billion cash right now
Really,
to do that. I wouldn't do it again.
Oh, really?
I really wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it was just a lot.
Are you glad you went, or is it?
Yeah, I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
Like the problem wasn't the mission. The problem was me, things that I needed to deal with myself. Cause my childhood, my brother had passed away right before leaving. And so I just didn't really, I just had a lot of trauma that I didn't really like address. But.
And then you get back from a mission, and then what are you thinking, or what do you do next?
So yeah, getting back from the mission was, I actually haven't opened up a lot about this stuff, but, I dealt with, pretty tough mental health, challenges. And so, then I transferred to BYU, and I had a cousin that did electrical engineering at BYU. Then he went to, Polaris, which is a VC fund, in Boston. And then he, did his master's in business at Harvard. And then he, came to work for this company here in town called DigiCert, which was...
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
And then Progressive Leasing. And I was like, man, I think I want to do that. And so that's kind of the path I went on. At the same time, my little brother got into Harvard, and my mom was like, hey, like you left your scholarship at Air Force. Your brother's going to Harvard. Like, you're on your own. So I had to figure out how to make money. And then I got connected to Todd Pedersen through my cousin Eric Woodley, and they linked me up with Casey, and so then I started working with Casey at Vivint.
Like the Woodley real estate.
Yeah,
I didn't know he was your brother. That's
my cousin.
Oh, your cousin.
Yeah, he's my cousin.
Sorry. So he connected you with Todd and Casey. He's like, hey, you need some money to pay for school. Come talk to this guy.
Yeah.
Wow. So then you talk to them, and the rest is history.
Well, yeah. I mean, I went out my first summer and it was horrible, but my cousin Eric told me like before he left, he's like, yeah, just don't embarrass me. It was a joke, but
yeah. You thought about it, I bet. Yeah.
Oh, dude, all the time.
Day, yeah.
Yeah, every day I thought about it, and I I wanted my family to be proud of me.
Yeah.
And so
Where'd you sell that first summer?
Topeka, Kansas.
Wow. Tell us about that first summer.
Feels like a whole lifetime away. I remember just taking time to just kind of really figure it out. And there were a lot of guys that were out there that just, at least on my team, that just didn't want to be great. And I wanted to be awesome. And so I went out by myself. I didn't like bring any recruits with me. And so it was kind of isolating because like I just was like in my own bubble and wanted to go and execute. Eventually figured it out and, came home with a, semi-decent summer, made like $30,000 and thought I was the man. And and then went back to BYU and kept going on engineering path, and then did the next summer, and I'd recruited a bunch and made a couple $100,000 the next year. And I was like, oh, this is sweet. It's a cool experience.
Heck yeah, dude.
Definitely recommend doing door to door.
Yeah.
For sure.
Dude, really cool. And then you kind of get into real estate investing. Like, I know you met Corbin. Tell us about that. Corbin Church.
Yeah. So I met Corbin Church. He's a professor at BYU. And I'd taken an entrepreneurship classes because I was doing a business minor. And so I'd taken his class, and then by just through this girl I was dating, I met him at a house in St. George, just randomly, go up to this massive mansion and go downstairs, and there's a bowling alley in it. And I'm like, I grew up with nothing. So I'm like, who in the heck owns this house? And then Professor Church comes down. I'm like, okay, this guy, and he's an entrepreneur. Sweet. And I had a strategy, like my deliberate strategy, and I think you know this from Clay Christensen's book, but my deliberate strategy was to finish mechanical engineering and then try to go to business school somewhere, maybe some sort of Ivy League, something like that, and then start my own business or like go acquire one. And I told Corbin that, and he told me this is the stupidest thing he'd ever heard. And
wow.
He's like, Tom, you need to start a business now. And so I had about $200,000 saved at the time. And so he helped me, buy my first duplex, which is crazy to hear. I mean, it's $200,000 for a duplex in Provo. Like, you could throw a rock and hit BYU from it.
Wow.
This was, forever ago, right?
Yeah, like 2015.
Yeah.
Wow. So you bought a duplex in Provo for $200,000.
Yeah, and I put like $8,000 down. I did the owner occupied thing.
It was so sick.
The cash on cash is unreal. That one's worth probably $550, something like that. Right now. Yeah, and then so I did the house hacking thing. So we moved like 18 times because you'd house hack and then you move out for the summer and back and
then buy another one, 5% down.
Yeah, so I did that a bunch, and then started my first company while at BYU.
Wow.
This is all while doing
summer
sales. Yeah. So,
dude, this is cool. So basically, dude, you don't have an idea of how you're going to pay for school. Your mom kind of like drops everything, and then you meet Todd and Casey, and you start working at Vivint. You do well. And then you meet Corbin, and he's like, no, dude, your plan to go to Ivy League school sucks. Like, you just, the best way to learn about business is to be in business. Yeah. You should start a company right now.
Yep.
And then he also teaches you to start investing in real estate, right? Was he like your big mentor in real estate?
Yeah. So I actually, what I lacked in father figure for, success in business and in life, my dad's a good person, but just not, he's had his own personal struggles and couldn't be there for us. But I had a lot of good mentors just around me. So Eric Woodley's my cousin, and so they got me into real estate, and so they helped me find really good deals. And then Corbin as well. So that's kind of how I got into it. And just super lucky that they told me not to do stupid. Like, I think I remember, it was after my year making like 200 something. I wanted to go buy an Audi RS7. I was like, it was a sweet car back in like 2015, 16. It was like the sickest car. And Eric was like, that's the most embarrassing thing I've ever heard. You're not going to do that.
You're going to embarrass me driving that, Tommy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then I just kept buying more real estate.
Wow. Really cool. Corbin teaches entrepreneurship at BYU, and I think it's really cool because he teaches all these entrepreneurs, like, once you do have a business or income from whatever, like, you really need to buy real estate. Like,
yeah,
real estate's how you build wealth. Like, your business could end any day. Like, you need to diversify outside of just your business. Like, so many business owners, I feel like, just put every penny back into their business, which is really risky. Like, and then he teaches like you should be taking at least half the profits out and plugging it into real estate, which I think is really smart. So dude, you start a company while you're going to BYU, while you're investing in real estate, while you're doing summer sales, and tell us about that.
Yeah. When I look back, it's like, what was I thinking? I was doing a lot of stuff. Fortunately, I'm pretty good at math. And so doing mechanical engineering, I was able to kind of not go to a lot of class.
Yeah.
So I skipped class a lot. And I actually have a friend that I'd pay to go to my classes for me.
No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
So maybe I get in trouble for that, but yeah. So that I could work on the other stuff that I was working on, I was more interested in. And then I'd show up for the final and test and, usually pass, most of the time.
Yeah. Tell us about that first business though.
So this was, so at every university, they have what's called a tech transfer office. So this is where you go and look at all the different patents that they have that all the professors are working on. And I remember seeing a bunch of them that I just thought were really dumb. It's just like weren't really cool. But then you find like these hidden gems that like nobody cared about, and so nobody tried to license them. But I just happened to have taken an astronomy class, and I remember seeing there's a deaf student in the class. And I remember seeing him have to look at his interpreter sitting next to him, and then also see what the professor is pointing at on the ceiling in the astronomy class at all the stars, and him being like this, trying to like, because the interpreter is like, doing the ASL so he knows what's happening.
Right.
And knows what the professor's saying.
Can't look two places at once.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, well, so I remember seeing that. And then I see that there's a professor that helped solve the problem, and he got a grant for $700,000 to develop. It's the patent is called ASL interpretation to a head mounted display. So we own that patent.
Wow.
So it's any smart glasses that you want to use, you can use. And I was like, oh, this is really cool. Why doesn't this exist? And what Corbin teaches, and it's really important in investing, is you do validation to see if people are willing to pay for it. So you can get what's called an I-Core grant, and it's like $3,500. And I use that to buy a ticket to San Antonio and set up a booth and pretended like we had the whole business done. Like I remember like printing out poster board and everything, and we just wanted to see if people were willing to pay for it. And sure enough, we had Dallas ISD, UT Austin, a bunch of school districts in Texas sign up. And then I go back and I'm like, Corbin, what do we do? Like we have these deposits, like now what? Because we didn't really have the product quite done yet. But it worked out. So we bought the patent from BYU for $10,000. And then I put $50,000 in, Corbin put $50,000 in. And that was a scary investment. Now, I'd never done a venture capital deal before, and I know that there's risk in those things. But my life would be very different if I hadn't had done that. Like that $50,000 turned out to be worth $8 million for me.
Wow.
Yeah.
First business startup.
Yeah. And that's not
Wow.
common. Like that's stupid luck. But,
Yeah. That's so sick.
But the concept remains the same. Like you just, those are the type of deals that I continue to look for.
No, I think that's really smart. And something, Corbin teaches, like you hit on, is like first step in entrepreneurship is ideation, right? Like think of ideas, think of pains that you see in the world that you could solve with a business, right? Like think of ideas. Like he says, everyone should have a note on their phone of like business ideas, right? And every time you experience a pain, and there's a difference between like a mosquito bite pain and like a shark bite, like that's his analogy, right? And then validation, like so many people like think there is a pain or have a business idea, and then they just start it and they drop 100K on it or whatever, but they didn't validate it. And that's important. Like validate, see if people are actually willing to pay for your idea.
Yeah. Because most people you talk to are going to try not to hurt your feelings and say, oh, this is a good idea. Until they're willing to part with their money, you don't really know.
How good of idea it is.
Yeah.
Really cool. And then, okay, so you're running that business, you're doing door to door, and then what kind of happens for you to like pivot out of door to door? Like when did you get the idea for the venture capital startup and stuff?
Yeah. Vivint was a great ride. I just was learning so much from Todd Pedersen and Casey and those guys that I worked with.
Wait, tell us about that. Like, what did you learn from working with Todd and Casey when they were in their, prime at Vivint?
I just remember saying that like, I'd be willing to go to war for these people and like take a bullet for Todd. I'd do it. And it was that kind of leadership because I felt like he'd do it for me too. So I don't know how, but like, that's kind of the what he conveyed. And I just knew if I ever, had my own thing that that'd be the type of leader I'd want to be. And so that was kind of like the main thing that stuck out to me. And then just like a relentless work ethic. Yeah.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So what made you pivot?
So Todd left and the business changed a lot.
Yeah.
And Casey left and that changed even more. And I had fortunately been lucky with, well, I say luck, but I need to be better. Like I need to give myself some credit and I'm trying to be better at that because I've been a really good investor and I've had good mentors that have helped me. But I started making more money outside of Vivint than I was inside of Vivint. And it was costing me money to, stay working there. And so then I just kind of went all in the stuff I was, where my unique ability was. And that's why I decided.
Heck yeah. What advice do you have for someone wanting to start investing?
Just start, because you're going to make mistakes and you're going to lose some money, but you'll learn. The biggest mistake is to not start because, you think about with me, that would have cost me $8 million.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. The sooner you can get started, the better.
Yeah.
Tell us about starting All In Venture. Was that pretty like seamless? Was that pretty?
No, it was really hard.
Yeah.
No, it's probably one of the hardest things I've done. And the reason is, actually the reason why I wanted to start it is there was a correction in the market in VC and I wanted to take advantage of a down market. So imagine if you were trying to start a real estate fund in 2008 and 2009. Nobody wants to give you their money, like zero, because maybe they lost money. Maybe, there's just a lot of fear surrounding it, but that's what I look for when I invest. I'm greedy when everyone else is scared. So that was, that was why I wanted to start because there was about a 60% correction in the venture capital landscape. And I knew I wanted to be at the bottom of that and ride it all the way up. So the benefit is we're, we get some of the best deals that I've seen for sure in my lifetime. But I mean, we're seeing deals with 3 times the revenue with half the price and better founders and all that. The trouble is just raising money for the fund was really, really hard, but eventually, we got the right partners and the right people to see the vision. And one thing that's different about raising money, and especially for a fund than for selling, is in selling, you always like try to knock down everyone's objection before it comes up. Right. Mm-hmm. My stance in selling for, raising money for a fund is, first of all, like every investment carries risk. And so you just, it's like, hey, look, these are all the reasons, where we can lose money. We're going to focus on the positives. And you can't have quite as much conviction as you do like when you're selling. Like, you got to get this product. This is the best thing that you'll ever have, and it'll change your life. All that stuff. You can't really do that, and you shouldn't do that when you're selling an investment. But what I learned was you kind of need to like weed out the people that aren't like believers in your mission right at the get-go. And so a lot of times I'll kind of like start the conversation with like, hey, this is the future that I see in venture capital. And this is where I see, the next 10 years and where it's going. And if you're on board with that, then sweet. And if you're not, then I want to save you time and me time, because the rest of what I'm going to say isn't going to make any sense to you because you're just already not there.
Yeah. It's already a no. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah, it's just kind of getting the right people on the bus that kind of see the same vision as you and that want to ride with you. And, the people that invest with me, I want them to be partners with me the next 40 years. And so that relationship's really important to me.
So I want to ask you, so you saw this like downturn in the venture capital space. Was that just because like funds were tightening up, or like what made it?
Oh,
yeah.
So the public market stopped. So in venture capital, your big wins happen when companies go public. And when rates started climbing up, and Wall Street basically shut down and no more IPOs were happening, it doesn't allow for liquidity events to happen.
Oh, I didn't know they stopped doing IPOs.
There's just, when I say stop, there just hasn't been hardly any.
Wow. Why is that?
So things just got kind of overhyped and overvalued because there's so much free money that came out in 2020 and 21. And it all went, it seemingly went all into venture. And so valuations were getting to the point where it was just unsustainable. And so if you raised a private round at $1 billion and you had 50 million in annual recurring revenue, you try to go take that public, and it just wasn't sustainable. Like the people that would take the company public wouldn't make any money on it. And so there had to be like a recalibration and reset. And so
explain to maybe somebody listening, explain what venture capital is.
So venture capital is, it's investing in startups, businesses.
Usually pre-revenue.
No, we don't currently invest in a lot of pre-revenue type businesses, but definitely pre-profit, and what's different between venture capital and private equities, private equities, has EBITDA margins and they're making a profit or, close to doing that. In venture, you're running in the red, and you're running in the red on purpose because you're in major growth mode and you're trying to, take down
everything back in.
Yeah. So you're trying to take down a big opportunity. And so that's what venture capital is. I love it. It's fun.
Dude, that's really cool. I actually didn't even know that venture capital is usually just no profit. And then private equities usually has some healthy profit.
Yeah.
So why invest in venture?
My belief, so private equity, a lot like, and I think there's money to be made in most asset classes right now, but I think private equity is very reliant on interest rates and less reliant on, investing in like founders that have a vision. I love investing in people that want to solve a problem. And there's a lot of people that, get into business because they want to make money and they chase money. And, a lot of times end up in jail. I want to back the people that want to solve a problem and create value because then the money chases them.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, if I'm going to be in the business world and doing stuff, I want to do stuff that matters. And just making money to make money just is super depressing to me. I want to make a dent. I want to do something. So that's what venture capital is. You're literally disrupting the status quo and bringing a solution to the marketplace that never existed. And it's just super exciting. One that's personally to me and something that, something that's in this fund now is an addiction recovery business. And we talked a little bit about this earlier, but had a rough childhood. And my dad had major mental health issues that caused him to be abusive. And my older brother was like our protector from that stuff. And so he took all that poison in, and his outlet was drugs, to kind of cope with that. And it was a couple years later, after my dad had left and everything, where my brother finally got into addiction recovery because he was trying to get better, and we were really proud of him. And unfortunately, we think he got hooked on methadone at an addiction recovery center, which is methadone is a drug that you give to somebody when they're coming off withdrawals if they go into addiction recovery. And that never made sense to me, that you are treating somebody with a substance abuse issue with another substance. And so it's common that people get addicted to methadone and then they'll, have an overdose of that. And that's what happened to my brother right before I left on a mission. And that was like a super difficult time for me. Anyway, so 2 years ago, Corbin and I were looking at more deals from BYU, and we went up to the Swicket, which is the tall building on campus, and we saw this technology that was supposed to help people produce dopamine in their brain without giving them another drug to help with addiction withdrawals. And I remember going up into the lab, and there's like these rodents that they've got these things connected to, and they're like testing their brains and all this stuff. And I was like, this is wild. But one of the professors had a family member go through addiction recovery, and the exact same thing happened. Lost them to an overdose on methadone. And they had developed this technology that they discovered there's receptors in our spine called mechanoreceptors. There's just nerve endings that are sensitive to an 80 hertz frequency. It took them 8 years to figure this thing out, and a couple $1 million of grant funding. And so what it does is it produces, it's a chair, and produces 26 hertz on one side and 24 hertz on the other, and that wave combines in their spine and creates a third wave, which is an 80 hertz wave that travels all the way up and down your spine. So after 7 minutes, your brain naturally produces dopamine and then also reduces GABA, and which is essential when coming off of an addiction. And I saw that, and I just knew I wanted, I was drawn to it, and I wanted to, I wanted to be a part of that. And that you don't get in any other asset class. That's something that It's groundbreaking. It's novel. In 2019, we published a white paper with the NIH showing that we were the first ones to ever produce, demonstrate that we could produce dopamine using these vibrational frequencies. And yeah, it's beautiful. Super cool. Now we've done phase 1 clinical trials at a couple addiction recovery centers and done the whole double-blind study and showed a 60% decrease in generalized anxiety versus the placebo. And then the NIH gave us another $3 million after seeing that data. And it's been life-changing for people.
Wow.
Yeah. The cooler part, the even cooler part is, dopamine's related to so many different things. People think it's just like the happiness chemical, but so it's shown significant results with PTSD, OCD, anxiety, insomnia, pain management, and even Parkinson's. So this is a massive, massive opportunity, and our product is a platform that can apply to each one of those use cases and do it naturally. And the trend that we're seeing is people our age, we saw the opioid crisis. Like the doctors that came out of school 30 years ago were taught different things than they are now. Now it's like if somebody has pain, they try everything possible to prescribe them anything other than an opiate for pain. But before they didn't know. So that was,
common.
Yeah. So common. And people were looking for different ways to treat, pain and mental health, and realizing that, medication has its place. But, if there's a pendulum where there's Western medicine and Eastern medicine, like we swung way too far on the pharmaceutical side, and people are looking for more stuff that's holistic. And
wow,
that's what this is.
So that's in your fund.
Yeah.
That's so sick.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. So you see this idea, they kind of tell you about it. How do you go about structuring that deal? And how do you put values on companies pre-profit?
So great question. How BYU structures their deals is kind of cool because they're an institution that, they're not for profit. So when we gave them a deal, we had to give them, ghost equity.
So BYU owned that.
Yeah. Oh, wow. So what they gave us is they commercialized, they gave us the full rights to the technology. And so we pay them a small fee, and their goal is to not make a ton of money from that. Their goal is to, commercialize technology because that's what looks good for them. They have research that's happening at the university and it's getting out there and it's going out to the real world. That looks good. When we have an exit someday soon, they get what's called, called ghost equity. So they get an exit fee.
Wow. Which
goes back into their foundation. But
so you guys basically bought that whole deal.
Yeah, it's ours.
Wow.
Yeah.
But what about your regular deals that you just find?
So those are all different. What I try to do different, and this is stuff that I learned from Todd, and is never do whatever you can to find an edge. You can't play you can't just assume that everyone else is going to let you succeed. You have to will it into existence. And for me, my fund is audited by a third party, and we have to deliver or there's no fund too. There's zero chance. And so I'm finding ways to add value to the fund by helping start some of these companies and gifting that equity to the fund, which is awesome. So right now I own about half of that business, and then my fund invested and owns about 10%. But I can gift all of my equity to the fund if I want to. And there's a certain return that I'm trying to get, so that, I get a massive fund 2 and 3 and 4, and, I can do that for the rest of my life. So yeah, so I have about 4 of those deals in the fund now where I have extra equity that I'm just kind of trying to pad my stats.
Yeah. You basically created those companies.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then with other deals, how do we structure those? we syndicate a lot of them. And so that means that we're doing the deal with other venture capital funds. And so other funds will kind of price the deal, but because it's not so much driven by like a revenue multiple at this point when we're getting in, it's more driven by comps of other types of businesses in a similar sector that are at a similar stage. And you can find all that data on Carta. So we kind of go off of those comps.
Wow. How much do you guys typically buy?
We try to buy 10% at least.
10%. Wow. That makes sense though. So how do you decide what to say yes to and what to say no to? Just again, looking for that edge.
Yeah.
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 Go with your gut.
People say that, we try to do the least amount of gut as possible. We try to like have as much data involved as we can. And so we're evaluating the team, like who's running the business, like what's their track record, what have they done in the past. That's the most important piece. It doesn't, technology's, if you have a bad person running it and it's a great technology, it's going to fail. So that's the first thing. And then we look at the technology, like what are the margins? What are the moats around it? Do they have patents? Then we're looking, is there regulations around this? Can the government just shut it down? What are their projections? And then what are the trends that are happening outside of this? And so to kind of condense that down, what I really want to see is a business that is the product of some sort of like inflection point. And an inflection point is a change in like society, a change in technology, a change in regulation. And what that causes is some momentum on, behind a certain idea. And from that inflection, I want to back a founder that has a unique insight based off of that inflection, that they can deliver something unique that people are desperate for. That's kind of like, drilling it down a little bit. And where I've learned that from is a guy named Mike Maples Jr. from Floodgate. And he wrote this book called Pattern Breakers. And it just kind of distills down really what we try to do as venture capitalists.
Really cool. How much of a portfolio would you tell someone to invest in venture? 100%.
So for me, I did 50-50.
Yeah.
But depends on your age and what stage you're at. I think you talked about, Tony Robbins has about 5% in, and he's in growth mode, but less growth mode than more just like, hey, let's, if you're in super growth mode and you're young, you can afford to do 10 to 20%. If you're really bullish on it, do 50, but it is a riskier asset class for sure.
Just because it's pre-profit mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But stepping back, the value, all the value, real value created in our economy is created by entrepreneurs.
True.
All of it. Yeah. So if you did an index of every startup company pre-revenue, even in the US since 1983, you'd average a 22% return. It's impossible to put $100 in every single one of them. But how our fund is structured is we're doing 50 deals, which is
per fund. Yeah.
Yeah. Which is a pretty good size. So you're getting about a 95% correlation to that index. So I believe it's, my belief is it's safe because I believe in people and I believe in entrepreneurs, like going and making things happen. So
did you have all of your deals structured before you started your fund, or have you just been adding?
No, I had a few that I'd like picked out that I wanted to do before we did it. But now it's deal flow. Like last year we saw like over 1,000 quality deals and we did 14 of them.
Really cool. What do you think about real estate right now?
It's hard. I think, people are, friend Zeke just found an awesome deal. Like you can find deals.
Yeah.
I have not purchased any real estate the last 2 years. Last year I haven't. That doesn't mean that I won't, but it's just hard right now because prices are still high and rates are high. And so the prices haven't come down to kind of to make it, you know, the people I know that are making money in real estate are like doing off market, like creative finance deals.
Yeah.
Like
Hustling to find the deals. create the deals.
And I'm not a sub 2 guy. Like I don't want the risk of like the loan being called because it's swapped in somebody's name. Like I just don't want to deal with that, you know? So my risk bucket is venture.
Yeah.
I don't want to like be that as risky in real estate, but
That makes sense. No, it makes sense too with venture. Like, yeah, more risk, but more upside potential, right? Because like if you just buy Apple stock, like it will take a lot for that company to double in size, right? Like it's a huge company, but like younger companies, like it's easier to like double or triple, right? And so you have potential to greater rewards.
Yeah, what you want to look for is like asymmetric risk, right? Yeah. And and companies are staying private for a lot longer. And so if you only invest in public companies, you'll never like people, you know, companies go public when they're worth several $billion, when in the past they go public when they were worth a few $100 million. And so the whole hockey stick of growth, like it's already happened in the private sector before you even see it. So like when they go public, a lot of times now they're like taking chips off the table and they're not really like growing the thing.
That makes sense. So tell us about iHub. What's your involvement? How did you get into that?
So iHub, I'm a donor at iHub. Our fund donated to iHub, and so we're in there.
What is iHub, first of all?
iHub is a not-for-profit incubator where you can come in
Utah County.
Yeah, you get access to legal and accounting services. You get we have over 200 mentors now that come in and help mentor our founders. And
are those just like donors like of their time, like yeah, cool.
Yeah, and they have an impact fund.
Heck yeah.
Yeah. What do we do?
We'll wrap up.
Okay.
Last couple questions. Do you believe that proximity is power? And if so, how important has it been to you in your life?
Oh, dude, it's been everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just being around as Corbin as much as I have, and the Woodleys and Todd and Casey and all those people. Anything good in my life has come from somebody that's, you know, believed in me and been around me.
Heck yeah. 3, 2, 1 pivot. What are 3 books that have impacted you, 2 people, and 1 quote?
Okay. 3 people that have impacted.
3 books, 2 people, 1 quote.
3 books, 2 people, 1 quote. 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. 7 Habits. And then I liked how you measure your life.
Clayton Christensen.
Yeah.
What's 0 to 1 about?
It's about investing in like technology that creates new value. So basically, you know, you used to make money by like going to war and like seizing somebody else's stuff. That's like a net zero gain of value. When you create technology and you're leveraging technology to create new value, you're creating something brand new. And that's the essence of entrepreneurship and venture capital is creating new value that makes everyone more wealthy.
Really cool.
Yeah.
And then 2 people
that have impacted me. Todd Pedersen, Corbin Church.
Heck yeah. 1 quote.
Oh no. What's your favorite these days?
Do the best you can where you are with what you have. We'll just go with that one.
Okay. Lift where you stand.
Heck yeah. Last question. If you had the world's attention for 2 minutes, what would you want them to know?
I would want them to know that they are enough. They're worthy. And yeah.
Heck yeah. Where can people find you, Tom?
Find me I'm not on Instagram very much. Just find me on LinkedIn, Thomas Wilkinson.
Heck yeah. Dude, thanks again.
Yeah, for sure.
Pumped for you, everything you're doing, and rooting for you, bro.
Appreciate it, brother.
Thanks for listening, guys. Until next time, peace.